listening to the M.E.M podcast, a show that discusses the different issues happening in our country and how you, as a student, is able to be informed and knows how to act. My name is Ethan 14, and together with me, Mir Fernan and Michelle Duboy, here to deliver different stories.
So, good afternoon to our now ignited listeners. And to the others who are new, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the M.E.M podcast. So, Mir, what is the topic for today?
I gotta say, Ethan, our topic for today is very contemporary and controversial. I know for myself that we and our viewers here have a lot to say in this topic. We'll be tackling about the Philippines' response to COVID-19. O, diba? We have a lot to say about this topic talaga. We have
Tama.
various views and opinions on the Philippines' response to the pandemic. So, without further ado, let's ask my Maring Michelle what's her thoughts about this.
So ayun, quick recap muna tayo sa COVID response ng Philippines noong 2020. Over a year ago, the COVID-19 virus entered our country, the Philippines. I remember I was grade 11 back then when we first experienced the weight of this virus. However, in March of 2020, everything changed as quarantine was imposed in the entire country. At first, many of us believed that, as we were told, that this quarantine would only last for a span of 2 months. Little did we know it was going to last way much longer. So how did our country try to respond to this problem nga ba? What did the government do to mitigate the effects of the pandemic and hopefully to stop the spread of the virus? Well, the Philippine national government, through its Interagency Task Force on Raging Infectious Disease, or the IATF, imposed different quarantine measures ranging from ECQ to MGCQ, depending on the extent of the virus in the country. This was imposed in hopes of helping the infection and death rates low without gravely disrupting the economy of the country. Other policies, such as voluntary physical distancing, wearing of face masks and face shields, school closures, and community lockdowns were also some of the measurements that the government enforced to us, its citizens. However, it was inevitable that some people couldn't simply stay in the comfort of their own homes. Take the daily wage earners as an example. For them, not being able to go out may mean that they are depriving their family with the most basic needs, such as food on their table. So since hindi sila makakalabas to provide food for their family, anong ginawa ng government? In hopes of mitigating this problem, the national government, in coordination with the local government units, or yung LGUs, extended help by giving ayuda in terms of cash, rice, canned goods, noodles, and other basic commodities to families all over the country. Sad but true, many citizens were also contributory factors to the spread and rise of the COVID-19 here in the Philippines, as many were hard-headed, cynical, and skeptical people who simply refused to follow the imposed health protocols. Some were even saying na hindi naman daw totoo yung virus, no? So yes, the government may have some flaws and imperfections in the implementation of measures kasi wala namang perfect, diba? However, it probably did what it thought would be the best considering the country's meager budget. So ayon.
Pero kung tutusin nga, di ba, parang pag-isipin mo, initial response, prevention is better than cure talaga. So maybe this couldn't be avoided talaga in total if the government really locked down the country nung first pa lang. Hindi na nag-lockdown yung andito na to limit the spread. Pero tama ka rin naman, hindi lang yung government may kasalanan kasi yung mga tao may kasalanan din. So let me ask you, to our listeners there and to my fellow speakers, how many individuals do you think have tested positive for COVID-19 here in the Philippines? Have you checked the news recently? In Zamboanga, how many do you think? And how many have recovered? How many, sad to ask, but how many loved ones and acquaintances of ours have died since then? nakakalungkot talaga na parang makikita mo na lang sa news ganyan or kahit sa school account natin, di ba? Notice of death. Parang nakakalungkot kasi parang padami ng padami. Since then, the country has been struck by new waves of infections with daily infection reaching new peaks. Philippines' response to COVID-19, I think, has been reported as, take this, being one of the longest and severe lockdowns globally. Hindi na sa Southeast Asia lang ha, globally na kilala na tayo ng Amerika, isipin niyo yun. The wearing of face masks, face shields, and social distancing was tightly enforced. Entire provinces and cities were placed under quarantine, and mobility was limited. And punitive action was taken in response to violations. Parang 2 years na. 2 years na tayong stuck sa loob ng bahay. Di parang gusto natin lumabas na. Yung parang makalaag na tayo, makita yung special someone, ganyan, if meron man or wala. So, to guarantee order was maintained and that all health regulations were followed, the government relied heavily on military forces. Pero question natin, why do military forces? Like, is that the best solution here? As a result, most citizens have labeled the government's response as draconian. Now, the question is this really the new normal? Do we just accept this? As many have observed, news feeds and social media slowly become digital obituaries. Although death is inevitable to all, I want to ask you this. Why are we so quick to blame? And are the people that we are blaming the only ones that deserve it? We keep hearing sa news or sa atin mismo na parang government may kasalanan yan kasi sila yung leader, sila may pakanan. Pero sila lang ba dapat i-blame natin? Almost 2 years since the pandemic began and the Philippines is still on the verge of standing back up. Even Zamboanga City, which is still under the 3 cities who are in critical situation. Ang other 2 cities, I think, was Cordillera Administrative Region and Cagayan. Pero to think na Zamboanga is part of that, parang nakakahiya. Are we able to blame the government leaders? Duterte, Beng? Sure, I guess, why not? But disregarding protocols, mismanaged funds, sure, it's easy to point our fingers. Madali na lang ma-point out yan. But let's try to take a step back and realize why cases are still rising. Parang sila lang ba? I'll give you 3 seconds to realize it. 1, 2, 3. Yes, it's us. It's us, citizens. Parang guilty, parang hindi rin kayo guilty na lumalabas kayo, di ba? Parang nakakatakot din pag lumalabas tayo kasi yun na nga, di pa safe. We are so quick to judge the response of our country that we disregard how we play a part in all of this. It became easy for people to become complacent with the arrival of the vaccines in our country that they think it's already safe to go out in public, that our lives are back to normal. Parang pag vaccinated ka na, safe ka na. So, hindi lang nila iniisip kung ano pa yung mga implications nun. Di ba, Mir?
Grabe talaga guys, no? Indeed, nakakagalit nga talaga mga ginagawa ng gobyerno natin. Pero tama nga naman din si Ethan. We have our faults rin. Ako, lumalabas rin ako. Sorry. So, as they say, let's try to be optimistic for a while and look at the brighter side on this matter. While we want to keep on pointing out the faults of our country, why don't we start appreciating the things that are already being done? As of today, there are about 26 million Filipinos that are fully vaccinated. Vaccinated na ba kayo, guys? And dapat vaccinated, ha? And we believe that it deserves some acknowledgement. Given that vaccinations only started last March, earlier this year. March ba? Yes, it's March.
March.
Because of this, schools around here in the country are already implementing the limited face-to-face classes. Yan ang sana all. Something that we're sure all of us students are looking forward to.
Tama.
Not only that, but with the improvement of our country, the government has slowly started reopening establishments, Dolomite Beach, Paseo del Mar, to resurge the declining economy of the Philippines. However, people should not be content with this. We are only scratching the surface of recovery, and it's going to take more time unless all of us are willing to make sacrifices. The goal of our country must remain and should be top priority. The increased vaccination rates, as this would allow many opportunities for the good of the Filipinos. So guys, let's get vaccinated na. Ano na ba tayo year ngayon? 2021 na, di ba?
2021 na.
So the year 2020 A year in which a pandemic has led to a drastic loss of human life all over the world and poses an immense threat to public health, sustainable agriculture, and the world of employment. We hit the slowdown button in 2020, and the world is currently in a state of shock, quarantine, and isolation. Di ba, nakakamiss talaga dati, wala pa mask, face shields, and free lang tayo mag-go everywhere. Di ba? As the quarantine days become longer and news about COVID-19 cases becomes worse and protocols and quarantines have been implemented, Ethan, pa-mention nga ulit ano nagawa ng Philippine government. Parang nakalimutan ko.
So yun nga, for the takeaways of this episode, the Philippine government, although has received a lot of criticisms because of mismanaged funds and priorities, still have taken unprecedented steps to suppress the viral spread of the COVID-19 virus and the struggle to enhance the country's health systems, prioritizing health concerns over other aspects by giving vaccinations and ayudas tulad ng mga food and pera to the citizens of the country. So regardless of varying views and opinions of the Philippines' response to the pandemic, a progress, although slow, is still better than no progress at all. However, for us citizens, we must always remember that we should never settle for the bare minimum. Michelle, sabihin ka?
Ayon. So let us all work together hand in hand to eradicate the common enemy, yung virus. We may not be able to fully bring back the good old days without experiencing extreme restrictions on the freedom of movement that we are accustomed to. But we can move forward as one by living better, conscientiously, and appreciating the things that we have and the things that are happening around us. The people we love and care about. Beyond doubt, life during a pandemic isn't easy and normal. But hopefully, when all this abates, we'll still be able to remember and embrace the values of its lessons. Let us all embrace our shared environment, time, and humanity. After all, without all these, what do we even have?
So, since patapos na tayo ng episode na to, maybe we can ask our viewers their final thoughts. Is the response of the Philippine government good or bad? Do you think like sa kanilang tayo mag-blame or we can also blame ourselves? We presented the facts and it's up to you. So before we end, do you guys have anything to say pa before we can finish this up?
Ako,
Mir?
generally, COVID-19 is real, guys. Real, factual, legit. We're already halfway to victory in the fight against COVID. So, get vaccinated, guys. Stay at home and stay safe.
Ikaw, Michelle?
So, as we all know, elections is fast approaching na rin. So, I hope that we were all able to register na. And don't forget to vote wisely para sa better and brighter future of our country.
So that's it. Thank you for listening to our Ignited listeners and to the new ones. Thank you. And tune in for next week again. Again, I am Ethan.
I am here.
And I am Michelle.
And thank you for listening. Bye.
Bye.